over to you.
First of all, thank you so much to the two co-presenters. Those were just such brilliant, meaningful, powerful presentations. Thank you. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Ghana people as the traditional custodians of the land on which I work, and I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which you come. I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and future, and recognize the continuing connection and contribution to this land and waters. The Time Traveler's Guide to Justice Through Medical Storytelling. The lounge of the time-traveling hotel has walls the color of the Adelaide Sea, a blue that belongs to mermaids and dolphins. My mother is 17 years old, waiting in the queue, holding a paper with a question. Medicine or English? I am in the queue next to her, my own paper crumpling in my fingers. I am 17 as well, and I recognize my mother, even though she does not yet know of my existence. She looks at my paper. Same decision then, she asks. Why those two choices? My parents are doctors, I say, without revealing who my parents are. The world expects me to be a doctor too. She looks at me. But what do you want? I do not reply. I cannot. I understand, she says. I've always wanted to do English, and the world always expected me to do medicine. I don't know what I'll decide either. The queue moves forward, and the man stamping the life passports gestures for us to come closer. He has two faces, like Janus, the god of doors and choices. What is your decision? He asks. I look at my mother looks at me. She doesn't know me yet, and I have not met this version of her. But our hands meet, and she squeezes my fingers. Whatever you decide, she says, it's the right decision. She lets go. The man with two faces stamps our life passports, and we walk through opposite doors. When doctors become doctors, they make the Hippocratic Oath, in which they promise obligation and care to all people. I think of this in terms of justice, obligation, and care to all people. One way in which the humanities and medicine intersect is through narrative medicine, which Rita Sharon defines as medicine practiced with the narrative competencies to recognize, absorb, interpret, and be moved by stories of illness. An example of this is When Brett Becomes Air, a memoir by a neurosurgeon who was diagnosed with cancer. When Brett becomes air, Paul Kalinidi, the writer, grapples with his own illness while trying to do the best he can for patients. In my own life, I've been lucky to work on a paper with my mother, who I'm, if you have not guessed by now, very fond of. And it was called Caregiver Burden Within and Without, and was published in JAMA Oncology. The paper is about patients, times when my mother had to make decisions about patients that were not easy to make, decisions that did not necessarily follow the textbook answer. Since then, she's received many emails from other doctors, including one from a doctor from Harvard, in which they told her that it meant a lot to them because she was looking beyond the diagnosis and able to see that obligation and care to enable justice also has to be molded to the individual situation. Narrative medicine enables us to see the person, not a textbook. It puts the humane at the forefront. Our next trip to the time-traveling lounge, my mother looks tired. She is older, and burnout is weaving its hospital gown around her. She is in 2012, and I am in 2024. I'm applying for a PhD, and I'm considering topics. I take her hands. A tremulous smile shivers across her lips. How is the PhD proposal going? I sigh. I don't know. I want to write a story that acknowledges the fear of existence, but also strives towards love. A step towards a story of justice. Though I have never regretted doing English, I do wonder about my life if I had chosen medicine. Isn't it a more noble profession? My mother raises her eyebrows. You're the one who keeps telling me words can change the world. I have written academic papers, but my medical narratives have a value of their own. They've led to funds for terminally ill patients. They've spoken to physicians. And because they move beyond science and into storytelling, they resonate with something deeper than facts. As a speculative fiction writer, my questions start from a place of magical elements. Medical narratives directly approach a true story. What happens if you slant this true story? For instance, true fiction. I think of how in Mouse by Art Spiegelman, we are told the horrors of the Holocaust that Lauren has so powerfully told us about, um, through a story of cats and mice. During the pandemic, there were many research papers written, many personal essays. But the piece that has stood out to me and has remained with me since then is a story by Amber Sparks, How to Share Your Home with a Ghost. And the reason it stays with me is because it takes that feeling of being haunted and makes it real, takes a metaphor and gives it life. My own PhD is about writing into grief. I'm reading medical narratives and personal narratives to explore grief, but I cannot address it directly, and so I've been using speculative storytelling to slant it. The ineffable can be found through what Jan's wiki calls the resonant form. By resonance, rather than simply stating something, the speculative allows the reader to see anew situations of injustice. It inspires them to move into obligation and care. My mother is a doctor. I study writing. We're building a bridge towards each other to find resonant form. She is using the act of storytelling to inform her medicine, and I'm using the questions of medicine for my speculative storytelling. Medicine and storytelling are both about finding the meaning to life, about resisting what Sir Terry Pratchett says is the biggest sin, treating people as things. Bringing these two forms together, I believe, can aid in the search for justice. As I write this, I find my soul detaching itself from my body and making its way to the time-traveling lounge. My mother and I chose different doors the first time. Now here we are again, and the man with two faces looks at us, waiting to stamp our life passports. Medicine or English? I reach out to my mother, and she reaches out to me. Our hands clasp. The man grins, and like a book slamming shut, one side of his face closes onto the other. He looks at us with one face and points to where the doors have merged. He stamps our passport. Good luck, he says. And I ended with a quote from my mom, because why not? She said, in becoming a doctor, I had lost part of the capacity to listen to his story. History taking is the physician's finest tool, but I had used it only to check what does he have and what should be done. I had not plumbed who is he, how is he managing, what does he hope for. This was published in one of her papers. Yeah, thank you.